All right, we'll get back to that. There you go. Okay, so if you didn't see the PowerPoint, this was the slide about statistical measures, mean, median, mode, and range. Mean, absolute deviation, and interquartile range are things we're going to learn about as the chapter goes on. Mode, number appears the most. In this data set, it would be 3, not 7, even though 7 appears twice because 3 occurs the most. Range, this is where we left off. Okay, in this data set, it would be 13 minus 3. The range would be 10. Okay, I hope that got everyone caught up. I apologize about that. And thank you so much for shouting it out to me. Thank you, Brayden. Thank you, Marianne. And thank you, Owen. And those are the ones I can see from my view right now. All right, so today's focus is on mode and it is on range. Tips for me that I want to share with you: mode equals most. So mode, most, think about how it sounds. And then range is how far apart the numbers are on the number line. Okay, so think about how wide that spread is from the greatest to the least. It's the distance away on the number line. That's what the range is, okay? So we're gonna focus first on finding mode. And I got 2 people that need to come in. Welcome if you're just coming in. We're jumping into the first skill, which is finding mode. So mode here, is very easy, especially if there's only one number that obviously occurs the most. It's pretty obvious, but there are a couple little things that make it a little bit more complex. One of them is if there are 2 numbers that are kind of tied for the mode. Okay, if there's a tie, they can both be the mode. Okay, and I have some words on here that you don't need to know, like bimodal and trimodal, but we could kind of break those up and figure out what they mean. Bi, like bicycle, would mean 2 wheels. So bi means 2 and tri means 3, okay, like a triangle. So use those Greek and Latin roots. These are certainly those words you do not need to know, but they're pretty easy once you think about it. Bimodal, 2 modes. Trimodal, 3 modes, okay? So most of the data sets will have a single mode like this one. In this data set, 5 is the number that repeats itself, so it occurs the most. It's pretty obvious that it occurs the most. So 5 is the mode. In this data set, 2 occurs twice, but then 5 also occurs twice. So then you're like, well, they're tied. Okay, that's fine. So they both are the modes. You don't need to average them out or anything like that. You just have 2 modes in that data set. And you can have 10 modes in a data set, okay? So it could be where, you know, there's 10 numbers that occur the most and they're all tied. That's okay. This one has 3 numbers that occur the most. There's 2, then there's 5, and I'm using different ways of circling just so I can kind of organize it. And then there is 7 that I'll try to box in. And poor little 4 was left behind. Okay, so almost all those numbers repeat themselves. All the numbers repeat twice except for 4. So 4 is left out, and 2, 5, and 7 are the modes in that data set. Okay, so mode occurs most. The 2 things that you need to, ooh, look at this little mistake here. They put an A for occur. No, no, no. Okay, sorry, that was not my text. That's somebody else's text. But we will change that to an O. Okay, so here's the deal with mode. You have to make sure that you're not thinking that mode is the number that repeats. Well, yeah, it will repeat, but it's not necessarily every number that repeats. It's the number or numbers that occur the most, far and above the most, okay? Now, oh, thanks, people like my Galaxy pen. I got it back to Galaxy. I'm so excited. Here's one deal, though. There can actually be no mode as well. And I believe I'm probably giving it away because I say this on the next slide, but yeah, let's move to the next slide. Okay. And you can go back and read this little gist of it, but I'm saying it in real life language. I just put that there in case people are watching this or printing it and things like that. All right, so finding mode, here's our second example. Ooh, we got decimals. Don't be too scared now. Don't be frightened by them. Okay, it's just decimals. They could be decimals, they could be mixed numbers in a data set. You could have all sorts of things. You could have a bunch of weird rational numbers with repeating decimals and things. That's okay. Don't be scared. And in fact, most data sets that we deal with in life are pretty much decimals. Like a lot of scientists deal with decimal data sets, okay? Think about that. Like when you're measuring something, it's not gonna always equal exactly 37 inches or exactly 37 centimeters, okay? It's gonna have these little itty bitty parts, okay? So a lot of data sets in the real world are going to have decimals in them. All right, and money, decimals, right? Okay, so here's the deal. Here are the steps. Ordering these in least to greatest are not like necessary. When we found the median, that was completely necessary to put them in order from least to greatest. You just have to do it. Okay, with mode, you do not have to do it, but it does help organize your data. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that to prove to you why it helps. Okay, so if I put them in order from least to greatest, I can easily see that there are 2 3.7s and that there are 3 4.3s. And so right off the bat, I don't have my eyes playing tricks on me or anything like that. I know that the mode is 4.3, done. That's your answer, okay? Now, if I look up here at this version of the data set, then I see, okay, wow, they're all mixed up. And so your eyes could play tricks on you. You could think that 4.3 and 3.7 are both there twice. You could maybe accidentally say that 3.7 is included in the mode. So putting them in order from least to greatest, it really does help with the mode and with the range, but it's not necessary. You do not have to do it like you do with median. You have to do it with median. Okay, so let's look right here. You're going to find the number that occurs the most. We easily did that. Mode equals most. If there are two numbers that occur the most and the same number of times, then they're both the mode, or three of them are the mode, whatever it needs to be. But here's the kicker. If there are no numbers that occur more than others, there can be no mode. Okay, and what you would write down as the answer is you would either just say no mode, or you can be really fancy and use this symbol here that we call the empty set symbol. The empty set symbol, I'm gonna write no mode, okay, or you can use this, boom. It's like a circle or a zero with a slash through it, a diagonal slash through it. Okay, that means empty set. And that means, it literally means an empty set of numbers like this, okay, which is, you see this is called set notation, these little funny brackets. I always think it looks like Alfred Hitchcock, but only your parents would get that reference. So the brackets right here show a full set of numbers, right? But these brackets have an empty set. There's nothing inside of them. So that's what this symbol here means, empty set. That means no mode, there's nothing in there. There's absolutely none. Okay, so that's just a little cool thing to learn about. When I was in 6th grade, like we had to learn so much about sets of numbers. That was what we learned. I just remember that so much. And that's how I learned how to draw my brackets, my 6th grade teacher. All right, so let's look at this. This is a table, okay? So you could actually find the mode from a frequency table instead of just getting a list of numbers, okay? So here, this is a little bit of something that you should have learned in 5th grade, okay? You should have learned what a frequency table is. Reminder, so here I am reminding you, boom, okay. So reminder, frequency tables show how frequent the numbers in the data set occur. Little mistake, let me fix this. They actually organize the data set perfectly for finding mode though, so it's kind of cool. So here are writing scores for the FSA. I always read every little bit of this. So here are the scores. So people can score between 5 and 10. And then here is the frequency. Now what that means is the frequency is showing how many people scored this score over here on the left. So my actual data set, I could actually write it down and stretch it out. It would be, and of course I wrote a bunch of stuff here instead of leaving it blank. Let me go ahead and erase that. Okay, so the data, my hand touched that, I'm sorry. Go back, okay. The data set would be like 5, 5, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10. That would actually be the data set, okay? Notice I did 5 twice, I did 6 3 times, I did 7 and 8 twice, and I did 9 and 10 once. So that's how you kind of pull apart a frequency table, but it's actually pretty useful for us because it literally tells us the mode right off the bat. And if you were thinking the mode was 6, didn't mean to circle that guy. If you're thinking that the mode was 6, you are correct because there are 3 6s. So it is far and away the mode. Okay, so the mode is 6 in this data set. Hopefully you guys get that. All right, so let's move on to finding range because I know you guys are really excited about playing GIMP Kit, but I sure hope that you are paying attention because the GIMP Kit is all about finding the range and finding the mode. Okay, and some of them on GIMP Kit today have answers that you have to type in. Miss Melanie got fancy, guys, okay? So not all of them are multiple choice. You can't just clicky, okay? Oh boy. All right, so I got really excited about that feature. Finding the range. Okay, so in range, it's just finding the minimum number and the maximum number. And actually minimum and maximum might seem just like regular old words in our English language, but they're also math vocab words. Okay, the minimum number in a data set is the number that has the least value. So in this data set, it would be 2. And then the maximum number in a data set is the number with the greatest value. So in this data set, that would be 9. Okay, so 2 would be the min, let's call it the min, and 9 would be the max. Okay, now you don't have to put these in order from least to greatest, but notice that it does help us because then we see the 2 numbers that cap that data set. The ones that are on the very ends would be the minimum and the maximum. So then we just do 9 minus 2, and so the range in this case would be 7. That's all there is to it, guys. That's not bad, right? The only time it would get like hairy is if it's got like numbers that are harder to subtract, but you can use a calculator. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and check out. And you're going to need those words minimum and maximum. You're going to need them soon because probably starting next week, we're going to be learning about box plots, box and whisker plots, the ones that don't involve cats. Okay. Or slug cats. That was a Vi-Heart reference. Some people got it. Okay. So you next week are going to need to know all these numbers, minimum, maximum, finding the median, and then we're going to learn about quartiles, which are pretty cool. All right, but I digress. So let's go down to finding the range again with the second example. This example is the same set that we used before when we were finding the mode. So I figure I would just go ahead and use the same set so that we can see what the range is. All right, so in this case, ordering is not necessary, but it definitely helps you organize the data. So I went ahead and ordered these, and you see that the minimum is 3.7 and the maximum is 9.0. So let's see if you can like on a scratch sheet of paper or something, or maybe you're using a tablet that you can use your finger to draw, try to find the range and chat it to me. Send it through chat. See if you know what it is, and then I'll do it for us together. Okay, so see if you can get the range. This is decimals, but I know you can do it. I see a couple different answers here. Ooh, I've got 3 different answers. Some people say it 4 different answers. Some people say it's 6.3. Some people say it's 5.3. Some people said it's 12.7. Someone said it was 2.5. So what is it? Let's see. All right, 9.0 minus 3.7. Remember, you're finding the difference, so that's subtraction. I need to move this little thing over here. All right, so you're finding subtraction. Guys, let me give you a hint. This is the same thing as subtracting 90 minus 37. It's just going to have 1 decimal point, okay? Down at the bottom. The decimal point, you line them up, and they drop right down. So don't get freaked out by the decimals, okay? So you have to borrow. You have to regroup, as they say. So 9 turns into 8. So then I know that this is going to be a 3, and then 8 minus 3 is 5. So if you said 5.3, you were correct. And remember, with subtraction and addition, they're inverse operations. So the great thing is you can check your work. Always check your work with the subtraction. That way, the people that said it was 6.3 would have caught themselves. Because if you say you add these 2 together, 5.3 plus 3.7, and you go ahead and do it, then you're going to get 9.0. And if you get that top number again, you know you did it right. If you got 10.0, you knew you did something wrong, and it should be one less. So it's always good to use inverse operations to check your work when it's that easy to do, especially if you've got a calculator, okay? All right, so let's see here. We're going to go ahead and move on, and we're almost to GIMP Kit, guys. So finding the range using a frequency table. So this is the same frequency table. I do want to remind you a couple of things. The frequency, the right side of the table, these numbers here are not numbers in the data set at all. They're not numbers in the data set. Those are telling you how often that number occurs in the data set. Okay, just always remember that. And then these numbers over here are the actual numbers in the data set, okay, the scores. And even though it doesn't say data set, if you go back and read the title, it says that it's all about test scores. So you know that the important numbers, the data set numbers, are going to be the scores, okay? So we're finding range. So what we're going to do is find the minimum, boom, 5, and the maximum, boom, 10, and find the difference. So that means that the range is 5. Shout out to Braden and Rochelle for sending that. Yep, the range is 5. Okay, so it really doesn't matter how often they occur. So the frequency didn't matter, but what was cool about this frequency table is that they already put them in order. Okay, so it was just easy to find the minimum and the maximum. So that's why that made it a little bit easier. All right, so we found out how to find, and I didn't really say how to calculate mode because you're not really doing much calculating, you're just finding it, okay? Mode is the number that occurs the most. You just find the one that occurs the most and you say that, okay? And then range is finding the difference between the greatest and the least number. Okay, so hopefully you guys are okay with that. I want you to go ahead and rate yourself as this is our levels of understanding scale. Remember, my scale goes from 0 to 4. So the most would be 4, not 5. Okay, so if you rate yourself at a 0 or a 1, then I totally recommend you come to my office hours so that I can reteach it to you. It's a little bit of one-on-one or small group. Okay, so if you don't understand mode, or it gets confusing when there's 2 of them, or it gets confusing when there's no mode or anything like that, you can come see me during my office hours and I will gladly help you. We are here every weekday from 2 to 3, all of your 6th grade teachers. So please join those office hours if you're not understanding something so that we can clear it up. Okay, or if you just have a question, or if you just want to hang out. Just know if you're coming to hang out and we have people that need help, we're going to defer to the people that need help and focus on them first, and maybe put you in a breakout room or something, or maybe tell you to come back later, okay? All right, so a few reminders before we get to GIMP Kit. I just want to go ahead and remind you what you're expected to do today. You are supposed to be completing, okay, or making progress on the IXL skill that I assigned the other day. It is a graded assignment, guys. So make sure that you're doing that. And actually, I'm going to share it right now with you because I want to give a shout out to the people that have done it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a visual shout out right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to, I'm going to go ahead and go right here to skills practiced. And I'm going to find that skill. I think I can do it like that. I forget. There's so many ways to look this up. Okay, so let's try this way. Boom, find the mean. See, we can see everything on IXL. So look at all these people that mastered their skill. So shout out to all those kids that got it to 100. They're getting hundreds in the grade book. Uh-oh, where'd they go? My computer is just so finicky. It just so easily moves from one thing to the other. I think it's the touch screen. Okay, so here they are again. Shout out to all you guys if your name's up here. Now, you don't have to get it to 100, but guys, why not get it to 100? Because it's 100 in the grade book. Any point counts. It could be the points that are putting you between a B and a C at the end of the 9 weeks, or the difference between an A and a B. points matter. So always try to get the most points you can possibly get. I will remind you that on IXL, if you get in the challenge zone, it gets a little hairy. And so I don't want someone to get like up to 90 and then go down to 73 and have to sit there and go crazy over it. So if you feel like getting to the 90s is okay for you, or getting to the 80s is okay for you, you can leave it there. It's just know that that will be your grade. Okay, so you have until Sunday night to do that. So make sure that you go back and do that. And now I'm going to go back and just remind you what I'm expecting for today. So besides that, I'm also wanting you to go to the YouTube channel, watch any lessons that you have missed in my class. There's not many up there, okay? And I need more content, don't I? And then also any shared videos that I've shared and you haven't watched. There's one 11-minute video on measures of central tendency. If you haven't watched that, you need to. It's your classwork, okay? And then also there's a video, a math antics video that's very good on mean, median, mode, and range. So if you do not understand this, if you rated yourself as like a 1, a 2, or even a 3, and you haven't watched those videos, that's the reason why you're there, is because you haven't watched all the content, okay? So if you're not playing live on GIMP Kit and you're watching this on a video, please play GIMP Kit. That is part of your classwork, so you have to play one way or the other. So instead of indie practice, instead of guided practice, you're playing GIMP Kit, baby. Okay, so here's GIMP Kit time. All right, so mode and range GIMP Kit practice. I just want to remind you, you could get a second device ready, like maybe having the Zoom on a laptop and then having the answers, the GIMP Kit itself on a phone. You could do that, but you really don't have to anymore, because they added this feature that you can click these little crosshairs over there and get to the leaderboard. So if you do not want to have that leaderboard showing, you just want to play GIMP Kit, you could just play GIMP Kit. You can have the Zoom over to the side somewhere, and you don't have to be watching the Zoom. You could just listen to the Zoom and play GIMP Kit, okay? So that is an option there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the code. I wanna remind you, you have to use your real name on GIMP Kit. You will not be allowed into the GIMP Kit unless you use your real name. And I have changed something. I changed it so that you cannot join the GIMP Kit late, okay? So